Account types are used to set up the defaults of when and how a statement should be billed to the responsible party. To see the defaults that are in your system and to change those if you'd like, go up under the Master Files menu, down to Patient Billing, and then click on Account Types. Now over to the left-hand side you're going to see the 3 defaults that the billing software has that you can use, and most offices actually use these instead of creating their own. First you have the typical account. Of course, whenever you click on any one of these, it populates the defaults over to the right. Typical account is assigned to any patient who has insurance, basically. Your self-pays, of course, you don't have insurance, and your no statements. Now your no statements you'll be assigning to patients who are sent to collections, because we don't want to send them a statement, and this will prevent the statements from going out because you already have the collection agency working on them with phone calls and their collection letters. Of course, to create your own, you can come over here and click Clear and type in a code, a description, and fill out the fields below. But for this example, we're going to go over the default typical accounts and explain the fields. So first of all, you have your statement messages, and if you recall from the statement message video, you have to each number here a message tied to the number. In fact, Master Files to Patient Billing to Statement Messages. And these are the numbers here tied to these descriptions. So when I close out of here and go back to my account types, there's my 30, 60, and 90. Now of course you can delete them and then click on the ellipsis button and, well, choose it again or choose something else if you'd like. Double click on it. There's your aging buckets that will pull the specified messages you select in each bucket. Now, side note, you can ignore the 30, 60, and 90-day aging buckets here, as they're only representative of when you actually send the statements every so many days. For example, if you want to send statements every 21 days, then even though it says 30, 60, 90 here, it'll actually be pulling for every 21, 42, 63 days, and it may be wise to rename your statement messages, again by going up under the Master Files menu, 21, 42, and 63, so it'll help you keep this in mind. And of course, down in the default billing cycle field here, you can set that to every 21 days, but we'll cover that in just a second. Let's continue going from the top down. So next is the statement charges. Do you want to calculate charges for your statements? In other words, if you send your statements out electronically, or even if you drop them and stuff them and stamp them in the office, maybe you want to charge them for the stamp, or maybe you want to charge the fee that McKesson charges you if you send it electronically through McKesson. So select yes. Put in an amount, maybe $1 a statement, and the default is SC code for statement charge that will go on their statements in addition to their bill, in this case the dollar amount for each statement. And then for the patient billing options, do you want to send statements? Of course, yes, I want to send statements. Next, you can check if you want a statement to be sent before your small balance write-off can be applied, the small balance write-off down below. Get to it in just a second. Default billing cycle. How often do you want your patients to receive a statement? And you want to know, if the system default cycle billing is set to no, then it will generate a statement when any new activity occurs that affects the patient's balance, like posting charges or payments. And the quick way to find out your system defaults is Utilities, System Defaults, Patient Billing, the category, and then over here Cycle Billing Only. So mine's set to no. So right now, any charges or payments that are posted on the patient's account is going to affect the cycle, so it'll start over again. Instead of, if I selected yes, I go back to my account types and I set the cycle date to 25 days, then no matter what transactions I post to the patient's account, it's only going to pull every 25 days, not any time that there are charges or payments. In addition to this, it generates a statement every 25 days. So in other words, if I try to generate statements now, and let's say it's the 24th day, hasn't hit day 25, then when I try to run the patient billing wizard, you're not going to see anything. So if there's nothing there, then it's probably because you haven't hit your cycle yet. Otherwise, if you want to be able to generate a statement every day, you could set it to 0, which I don't recommend. Minimum statement balance. So if the statement has a penny on it, do you still want it to go out? Or is it not worth your time and effort to send a statement for a penny? Or maybe anything less than, let's say, $1. Do you want to write off any small balances less than $1 or less than maybe 50 cents? And then if you do want to write it off, what's going to be your code so you can recognize it as a small balance write-off? Go ahead and click on the ellipsis button and then choose your code, and I'll go with small balance write-off, or I can add a new one, but I'll double click on small balance write-off. How do you want your statements to generate? Do you want them to drop to paper and you can print them and stuff them and stamp them and mail them off yourself in the office? Or would you rather have McKesson do it? If you select electronically, when you run your statements, they'll go out to McKesson electronically, and then for a fee for each statement, they'll go ahead and print them off, stuff them and stamp them and mail them off for you. Now these next two options are optional. This one is the number of statements in the billing rule. If you haven't watched the patient billing rule video, you'll want to watch that because it ties into this. In other words, how many statements do I want to send off before I start sending off collection letters? If you leave it at 0 here and you leave the billing rule blank, then it'll generate statements, well, forever, as long as the patient has a balance, of course. Otherwise, let's say after 2 statements, we want a billing rule to apply, and if you haven't watched the patient billing rule video, you want to watch that, and that's something you have to set up in your system, watching the video, before you can actually come in here. Because if you don't have it set up, then you can't click the ellipsis button and select a rule from it. And here's my patient billing rule of 120 days. It can be whatever name you want to give it. I'll double click on it. So what's going to happen is after 2 statements have been sent, and we'll quickly go under the master files menu down to patient billing rules, and you can see over here my 120-day rule, which means after so many statements have been sent, we're going to go back to account types. I said 2 here, remember? Okay, go back to patient billing rules. So after 2 statements have been sent, then I'm going to send a collection letter, and it's based on the aging date of the oldest charge when it hits 121 days without being paid, the oldest open charge. Then this soft collection letter is going to go out. So again, how many statements I set is going to be number 2 in my account types here before it starts the rule of sending out collection letters. And a final note, when it does send out collection letters, they're all going to go electronically, so you will be responsible for paying a fee for each collection letter that does go out. And then finally, do you want to assess finance charges? If you do, say yes, you want to calculate them. And then the start period is by the aging date you'll choose down below, 30, 60, 90, or 120. The annual percentage, 18, 20%. What's the minimum balance that you want to assess a finance charge on? Maybe it's not worth it if it's under $5, so my minimum balance is 15. Anything over 15 I want to assess a finance charge. And then if it's 20% and I only get $1 or $2, to me it's not worth it. The minimum charge, if I can't get anything out of the annual 20% for minimum balance, I'd like to at least charge them a minimum of $5. When you're done, be sure to save your work. Next we have the trickle down button, and all that means is that let's say that I save this, and 6 months from now I decide not to charge everybody 20%, maybe 30%, or I don't know, make some changes here. Once I save it, it's only going to affect those patients that are entered into the system from then on. But if I want to affect all the other patients that are already in the system, I want to click on the trickle down button to have everybody also updated to the new defaults I changed and saved in here as well. And then finally, the only other thing you want to do is also check your self-pay, make sure that for your self-pays in the system that you're okay with all the defaults here. And for your no statements, well, it's set to no, so you'll tie those to the patients that you don't want to send any statements to. Typically those that are in collections.